Welcome to the Clear to Send podcast, a podcast about wireless engineering, where we educate you on Wi-Fi technology, talk about design tips, troubleshooting, interviews, and the tools. Here are your hosts, Rowell and François.
Today's show is brought to you by Audible. Audible is offering our listeners a free audiobook with a 30-day trial membership. Just go to audibletrial.com/cleartosend and browse the fantastic selection of audio programs. Download a title free and start listening. It's that easy. Again, go to audibletrial.com/cleartosend. Hey everybody, welcome to a brand new episode of the Clear to Send podcast. I'm your host, Rowell Dionisio, alongside your co-host, François. How are you doing, François?
Very good. Hi, Rowell. How are you?
I'm doing great. I actually just did a webinar with Ekahau talking about OWE, WPA3, and device provisioning protocol. So hopefully we can share that with all the listeners when that comes out. That should be relatively soon, but it's coming on top of the episode from last week, the same demo that I saw at Aruba Networks, but in webinar format.
Yeah, I listened to your episode. It was good. It feels like I haven't talked to you in a while. It feels like we haven't recorded an episode together in a while for some reason.
Yeah, we've been busy. You've been traveling, and currently you just got off training. Is that right?
Yeah, we just finished the day here, and then we're recording the podcast. Perfect day.
Yeah, and so for those of you who don't know, François is actually an Ekahau instructor for the ECSE.
ECSE, yeah.
Yeah, so if you guys need training, François could be your instructor. He knows Ekahau inside and out, and he's teaching a whole bunch of people. Where
I'm
are
not the
you
only
today?
one, though. Other people are teaching the course as well.
But you're the best one, right?
I wouldn't say that. I'm one of them. Yeah, they're all good. They're all good.
Where are you today?
So today I'm in Orlando. Yeah, it's a little warmer than Canada right now. So
I bet. Humid, right?
My wife was jealous because she was like, "Oh, you're going to a warm place," but I end up being inside under AC all day long. So I don't really enjoy the heat that much.
No, I'm not a fan of the Florida weather, but you gotta visit it sometimes, especially for conferences. But in this episode, we're gonna talk about Mist and their presentation from Mobility Field Day 3, because we thought they had a lot of great content that came out from there, a lot of great features that they discussed, and it's a very different way of looking at Wi-Fi, because their platform is very different from everyone else's. Wouldn't you say so, François?
Yeah. When you look at Mist, I think it feels like every time I listen to them and I look at their stuff, it feels like it's like a glance to the future of Wi-Fi, right? It feels like this is going to be the Wi-Fi in the future. It's definitely like a future-proof, solution. And this year I was really impressed with the list of clients that we're starting to get. They were talking about, for Fortune 500 companies, Fortune 100 company, and they were starting to get a lot of APs deployed. Starting to, I don't see it as a startup anymore. I don't know what you feel, but it doesn't feel like it's a startup anymore. It feels like they have a real solution that you could actually deploy in a critical environment. So
I agree, and they are still a very young company, but managed by people who have been in the industry for a while, right? And a few of them, especially Bob Friday and Sudhir, came from Cisco, and they have a lot of knowledgeable engineers. They're just approaching this differently. And yes, I am surprised as well that they're able to grab such large companies, and they're not afraid to do these bake-offs with other vendors that are these incumbent vendors that are already in place, right? They come in, they know these companies have issues, and they say, why don't you put in some of these Mist APs and see how we're different, and see what issues you can solve much faster. Yeah. I think that's actually what they bring to the table, something different in terms of when you're looking at Wi-Fi, it's more than just managing APs and the SSIDs, the configuration. Mist is actually telling you here's what's happening on your network. Here are the issues that's currently happening on these APs or these
Yeah,
clients.
the bake-offs, I found that they were very interesting because they were pretty much saying that, okay, customers like, replacing their APs with our APs for a couple of weeks, and then for some reason it was working better.
Yeah.
From what I understood, they were using machine learning and software to pretty much optimize the RF environment. To me, it's like magic, right? It's
Yeah, it
like, how
definitely
does this
sounds like
work?
it. It's definitely over my head. I'll tell you that, especially when it comes to their RRM, right? RRM was something that they were touting during the presentation. Now, I cannot speak to their RRM algorithm, but they are not shy about talking about how it works. They're very open to that, and they do show algorithms during their presentations, and it's kind of scary at first because they're showing people their secret sauce, I think.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it means that they're very confident with what they're doing.
Oh, and that's one of the biggest things I get, especially when Sudhir talks. He's very confident
Oh
about
man,
the
this
Mist
guy has so
product.
much energy.
I definitely stayed
He's
awake during the
Yeah.
presentation.
If you've never seen him present, like you've got to watch one of his videos. It's like, I still remember the day he did a presentation for at the WLPC, and he did one of those 10 talks presentation when you only have 10 minutes, and then it's very strict. Like, you have a timer, and you don't
Right.
have 1 second over 10 minutes, and it feels like he packed so much information in 10 minutes. He would just go, 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 go.
Oh yeah.
And he was like, oh, I'm on time at the end.
And what's funny is during Mobility Field Day 3, when you watch the videos, he always talks about the time. He's like, and for the sake of time, I got to keep moving on.
Yeah.
But Sudhir did a great job talking about the platform itself. And for those of you guys who don't know who Mist is a Wi-Fi vendor. They do this in the cloud, so it's a cloud managed Wi-Fi solution. They have access points, and everything is configured and managed in the cloud. None of your data goes to the cloud, but all the services are there. So your the RRM, the policy, location, all that is what they consider microservices. And I really enjoyed them talking about their infrastructure and how they can scale this out. And I think that's critical for any company that operates in the cloud. One of the most important things is okay, if you're going to bring on X number of clients, especially if they're big Fortune 500 client companies, your cloud better be able to scale. And if certain parts are gonna fail, that better fail fast and recover quickly.
Yeah, and they were also talking about the fact that because they have microservices in the cloud, they could, if they were to roll out one new feature, they could roll out the feature for a subset of customers,
Hmm.
like the beta testers, and then see how it would work in their environment before scaling it out to all of their customers.
And I think this is how some of these updates are applied so easily to your access points, right? So let's take for example RRM. Let's say they find out that there's an improvement that they can do to RRM, but what they do is they'll spin up a separate microservice of RRM, update that version, and then start pointing some clients to that, right? Their APs start pointing their RRM services to that. And that's how they slowly update um, across their client base. And then for some reason, if that fails, just that microservice fails, and all the APs can go to a different instance of that microservice. So I thought that was pretty interesting. It's more like a cloud speak, um, cloud infrastructure,
Yeah.
say you will. So it's kind of beyond what I know. I started off in infrastructure with servers, and then I got out of that and into networking. So I don't know. I think I got out of it right when the cloud started to get really started to gain traction. And so I think that's interesting that we could build these services that we highly rely on, right? People are very nervous about going to the cloud, but it seems like Mist has built their cloud infrastructure where it it's built around where certain things can fail, but not do this, not have this very hard failure across the board. But I
Yeah,
don't know. It's
yeah. You
that's
know,
just how they
we're
explained it.
getting more and more software into the networking industry. So I think like it's for us, it's going to be important as well to understand those platform. And if you actually look watch the videos from Mobility Field Day, you can see Keith and the other guys asking questions on which terms to use and try to understand how the cloud works, the different terminology, the microservices, the controller, and all of that. And I think that in our jobs in the future, we might be interacting directly with people, developing those microservices. So it's going to be important for us as well to understand the vocab and understand, what terms to use if we want to describe something we want to get done.
Do you think, Francois, because Fortune 500 companies are using Mist, do you think now cloud-based Wi-Fi, cloud-based managed Wi-Fi is safe to go towards? I mean, I know there's a lot of people that are weary of using
Yeah.
cloud, but
I,
that seems like the future, right?
yeah, I think we passed that now. Um, this week they had the I don't know if you saw the WebEx issue where
Yeah.
WebEx was down for
The
like a
WebEx
day and
Teams.
everyone freaked out.
Yeah,
Um,
because you're highly reliant on WebEx Teams, right? So, I mean, this is going to go off on a tangent, but it's related to cloud services
yeah,
because a lot of people relied on WebEx Teams for, say, calls, their meetings. You could also, WebEx Teams has an API, so you could tie things with an API, right? Let's say someone was managing a switch, they were doing a config change, and somehow you have an API that hooks into WebEx Teams where you can approve that change. Well, that's a day of not seeing any of those notifications. But
yeah,
I'm just saying like that because Mist also has an API. We could see certain things fail, but it's just a matter of how do they fail and how do we recover from that? What are our
yeah.
alternatives to keep working? Will the AP stop working all of a sudden? I think it's just going to be that you just can't manage them. You'll still be able to join
Yeah,
the access point, get onto the internet, but you won't be able to say make a change to an SSID or
yeah.
bring up new APs if you
I
lose
think they
access to the
talked a little
cloud.
bit about it, right? That's what they were saying. Like it would
Yeah.
still work, but some of the configuration changes might not work. So for the cloud, for a company like a Fortune 500 company or big company, and they're looking at the cloud, for them the advantage is that it's more scalable, more processing power, and it's supposed to be more redundant and resilient as well, right? You're supposed to have less outage and issues. So I guess when it comes to security, maybe they have to, maybe the clouds will bring more advantages that disadvantages in terms of business, and so they take the decision to go in the cloud. It's
Yeah, and
become
yeah,
very common nowadays.
I think you're right. Those are very big driving factors for a lot of companies, and maybe that's why these Fortune 500 companies are going this way because of how quickly they have to to follow the change of business, how quickly they have to bring up services and maybe new offices or new stores, for example. And so, with
Mm.
you need something that can keep up with that. And you don't want technology to be the limiting factor. So cloud seems to be the way to go because you don't own the infrastructure. You're the only thing that you're going to own are the APs and you just need
And also,
internet
like,
connectivity.
when you listen to, Bob's presentation, you actually he explained that, some of the feature they're able to have with Mist is only available because they have access to this cloud infrastructure. Like we will never be able to do the same type of, machine learning and AI that they're doing with just, your own little data center. So the cloud is also bringing you some new features, right? And
Mhm.
that's how Mist, I think, is able to be Mist. It's
Okay.
because of the cloud infrastructure and the architecture that they have, they're able to get all these new services online. And then the solution also becomes very scalable because you have this API that allows you to interact with your APs. You can actually program everything, right? You can program your APs, your SSIDs with code. So it becomes very scalable for the clients, especially the one that have a lot of sites or APs to deploy.
Oh yeah.
So it makes more sense from a business standpoint to go that route.
Yeah, I agree. One of the things that is little, I guess, just bothers me a little bit is with all the data that they're collecting, right? There's a lot of data that Mist collects in terms of RF, what's going on in the RF, a lot of the API pools, anything. Basically, they have data on everything regarding your wireless infrastructure, all the clients, what they're doing. Do you think that they could be storing too much? Do you think there'll be a time where they can't wrangle all that data? Maybe the cost of storing all that data becomes a burden?
Well, I think they were talking about, how long they keep the data for, right? I forgot how long it was. Like, was it 1 day or 7 days? I forgot.
Yeah,
But
I think it's more than 7 days.
I mean, the amount of data they collect, I think that's not really what matters for the end user or for us, configuring or monitoring the Wi-Fi. What matters to us is how do they use this data to show us what we care about, right?
Hmm.
That's more like what they need to figure out. Like, how do we use this data to, let the user know that, Wi-Fi is good or Wi-Fi is bad, or they need to do something about it. They need to add an AP. They need to act upon the network. Maybe there's a breach, something.
Yeah, because I wonder though if that creates any kind of performance hit. If they have so many clients and collecting so much data, can they still deliver like fast, snappy service
Hmm.
to the client where when everything is cloud based, everything's in the cloud. So will they
Yeah,
be able to keep up with that performance despite how much data is becoming collected, how much
yeah.
data has to be correlated across um, across different services, the different microservices in order to come up with a correlation engine or, a resulting piece of data. Cause we'll talk about this. We'll talk about AI. Maybe we can dive into that now because AI is their main driving factor here. That is their, I guess, their main message. Their motto is AI is in the air, right? So artificial intelligence, bringing that into the wireless space. Their product is called Marvis, which I think is funny. I don't know if you watch Iron Man, um, but Iron Man had his own
Assistant.
artificial and yeah, his
Yeah.
assistant was called Jarvis. So I think this was based off of Jarvis. And the the premise there is you can ask Marvis anything and with the data that it has, it should be able to give you a response, right? So Marvis is an actual solution within the Mist dashboard, which I think is really cool for right now, I see it good for like level 1, 2 folks who are trying to troubleshoot the wireless network. But you can ask it a question. You can say, troubleshoot Rowell's iPhone, right? Or put in a MAC address, and it'll give you the issues that it sees with that device without you having to actually go in and dig. It can get that information for you and pull it up on the screen. What do you think about that?
That's crazy cool. And I like the fact that, they're learning from each questions that the users are asking. So if you're asking Marvis the question that, he never got before, he's going to add it to the list of questions he needs to be able to answer in the future. And that's what they call machine learning, right? They're training the algorithm to be better. So I think it's pretty cool. I think at the beginning, I think we won't really know what question to ask. I don't know how you feel about that because we're not used to it, right?
Well, they're trying to train some of the people who use it, and they will give you some example questions. So some of the simple questions are, show me unhappy users at site A, for example,
Yeah,
and it'll give you
yeah,
the worst clients. Or you can say troubleshoot the production office, and then it'll tell you the top issues that it sees. Or give me a list of all clients events in the last hour, and then it'll give you, some anomalies there. And then from there, you can drill in deeper, and it does this really good correlation engine, where it correlates a bunch of different pieces of data to kind of narrow down what the potential issue could be, right? Could it be something very specific? Maybe it has to do with an update that you applied to a whole bunch of Android phones, and it's somehow messing up Wi-Fi. You can actually see that easily through the after you do the Marvis and do correlation, you'll see that.
So one question that you guys didn't ask them is, what if you ask Marvis a question that's totally out of the blue, like not related to Wi-Fi at all? What type of answer do you get?
Kind of like what
Like
Siri would tell me, which is I don't know how to do that.
yeah, if you ask like who's the president of the United States, like what does Marvis tell you? That would
It'll
be
give you
fun.
the president of the company's iPhone.
And also, I wanted to know how they deal with like questions that are,
Yeah.
bad questions, right? People that swears, and stuff like that. No, but they have to deal with it, right? Because if they don't, the algorithm would just learn bad stuff, right?
Well, I wonder if they apply some sort of machine learning to that aspect to figure out what types of questions are people trying to ask Marvis, and maybe they could help ask the right questions and say, maybe are you asking about this, and then present that
Yeah,
to the
yeah.
user.
I
I think
guess
that's
that
one way
would
to
be the
do
way
it.
of doing it.
But Mist does completely use the virtual network assistant on their own. So if you were to open a ticket with Mist about something, they actually use Marvis to try to solve those issues for you.
So that's
But
when they have access to any data from any customers, right?
yeah, assuming you give them access, you say, yeah, you could use the access. They'll actually use Marvis, so they use it themselves, and I think that's how they are actually improving on the Marvis, because it's been I think a big update from a year ago when they first talked about this, and I think it was just called Virtual Network Assistant, and then they came to a name, but I think it's making a huge transition here. We're seeing, uh, I've seen only Mist actually apply artificial intelligence the way I envision artificial intelligence. Right? It's kind of like asking um, asking your Echo Dot to do something.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's very similar to that with Marvis. So I think that's what they're trying to get to. They're trying to improve that a lot more, because then you could actually solve problems much faster this way. I think if they
Yeah.
get all their data right, they can correlate things properly, and then you can drill into the data and actually confirm that, okay, yeah, this is an issue.
Another aspect of AI is that they could use the information they collect and correlate in real time to automatically change the configuration of the APs and optimize the environment.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest next step. I think I asked that question: if they take that data and then feed it into their, for example, your RRM algorithm,
Yeah.
how does this data play into that? Can the RRM algorithm then take client data into consideration and adjust it per client, instead of just using RRM on an AP to AP basis? Because that's how, like, Cisco's RRM works, right? It's APs
Mm.
talking to each other, and that's how they decide on how to make a change.
It's not that as easy as you would think, right? If you
Yeah,
actually
it's
sit
very
down
complicated.
and try to figure it out, okay, what would happen in this environment? What would be the next step? I mean, if you engineer troubleshooting something at a specific site, you're aware of a whole bunch of stuff, so you're able to take a decision and go left or right. But a soft, an algorithm, it's totally different, right? So it's not as easy, I think, as we think it is.
I think one of the things we did not talk about at Mobility Field Day 3 was a lot of people look for a single vendor to go to for all solutions, right? You got your
Yeah.
wireless, your switching, your routing, and firewalls, for example. Mist does not do anything else besides the APs. So you got your Wi-Fi, your AI in Wi-Fi, and then also your location services. where do you think the future of Mist is? Do you think they're going to build a switch or a firewall, or should what do you think about
Yeah,
that?
I'm not too sure about that one. I would think, if you look at the market, like it would make sense if they do, because you have the Magic Quadrant from Gartner, which only put you on there if you do both wired and wireless. um, and also you're able to offer like a full stack solution to your customers. If you look at Aerohive, they started to do APs and then they did switches. Same thing with Aruba, right? And then after that they got acquired by HP, so they had this full solution. Meraki was the same way. I think they started with Wi-Fi. So it's weird because if you follow the industry and what the other guys have been doing, it would make sense. But Mist is so different from since they started working on their stuff there. They haven't really followed the industry, so I don't know. That would be a good question to ask them and see what they think.
Yeah,
And that's the second question that would go with that is: are they going to get acquired, or are they just going to continue to be on their own and
I hope
do
they
their own thing?
don't. Yeah, I hope they stay just. I would like them to just focus on the Wi-Fi. I think what we see is when companies get acquired, they tend to lose that
Focus.
specialty, right? That they do with wireless, and the things start to fade off, or we get features that no one's really going to utilize. But I think what I've seen is Mist is actually partnering with different companies like Palo Alto Networks and Juniper
Juniper,
and
yeah.
VMware. So it looks like they want to maintain that specialty that they do and mobility, and then with their APIs, just connect with other companies who also have APIs into their systems and
Mm.
tie those systems together, but not have, VMware go, you know what, we need a wireless solution now. Let's buy a company. I think it's
Yeah.
good that they all stand in their silos because that's their specialty. That's what they're good at.
The thing is, like, how long are they going to be able to, you know, continue operating without being acquired? If if they keep staying focused on Wi-Fi, maybe they're going to be more appealing to certain companies. You know,
Yeah.
but I don't know. We'll
There's
see
no
how
yeah.
it goes. It's hard to say. Huh?
Yeah, there's no avoiding that for sure. There's probably some companies that has their eye on Miss, but I think they're making great progress.
Yeah.
There's still a lot of work that needs to be done, I think, but they've created a solution that I think many people have been looking for when it comes to wireless, right?
Mm.
It's something more than just configuration. It's more about, okay, how do I know that wireless is good and that it's working, that users are having a good experience? And I think that was a first step for them, and they were able to
Yeah.
do that.
And I don't know. It feels like it's more like I have one Mist API at home. I have it connected, and I've seen the dashboard. I haven't deployed Mist for like a few, you know,
Like
tens of
yeah,
or
a
thousands of
large
APs.
deployment or something.
But it feels like it's a simpler solution to deploy than doing a full controller install and then upgrading your controller code and praying that all the APs are coming back up. uh, so I don't know. It feels like it's more of one of the solutions. Like you install them, you have more visibility, and then it works. You know what I mean? And
Hmm.
and that's not something you can really take for granted if you've been dealing with enterprise Wi-Fi or any IT stuff, actually. So I don't know. Well, it seems like a very for me, like I said earlier, but it's like very future proof. If customers are interested in doing more automation and stuff like that, I mean, it's like a no brainer. It's going to work with Mist. The API gives you access to. I think that's the largest API for Wi-Fi.
Yeah,
APs.
and it's an extensive API that you can practically do anything. And
Yeah.
they've actually mentioned that some of their customers build their own dashboards and don't look at the dashboard that Mist provides you.
Yeah. You see, that's next level. But if you're like a service provider, this is what you do for a living. This is your business. You could actually do that, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's not the usual use case, but if the company's got the resources, you can do it.
Well, I'm
Well,
looking forward for the future for Mist, for sure. Um, and I think that's something I would recommend to some customers.
building your own dashboards.
No, Mist solution.
Oh, Miss.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'd like to do a bigger deployment other than like 3 APs and to really see
yeah.
this in action.
Just deploy that Stanford. It's easy, right?
Yeah. Well, I guess if you guys really want to see how Mist works, what is it? PetSmart is their largest customer. So if there's a PetSmart near you, you
I
could
think
go
Lee
in.
was
They got Mist.
asking about, asking questions that made me think that he might consider it for his university. He's like, what do you think of deploying it for like, a big site with legacy controllers?
It's a big change. I think that's a common issue for a lot of people is with controller based, you're not trunking a lot of different VLANs down to your edge switches, since you tunnel all that traffic. But now when you put in a solution that's cloud based or that is not a controller based solution, your whole layer two model, your whole layer two design
Mm,
changes because now you got to put all those VLANs on the right ports where the APs are, and
yeah,
depending how large your environment is, that can be a
yeah,
huge
end to end
undertaking.
VLANs. And you have like, if you have, older equipment, you have to make sure you have VLANs everywhere, end to
Yeah, so
end.
maybe the issue might not be wireless; it could be a switching issue.
Yeah, yeah. Well, they talked about tunnel technology. I forgot which one they used to tunnel all the traffic back to, you know, the core of the network or something.
Yeah, but then does that mean now you got a controller again?
No, it just means all the traffic is centralized, I guess. Yeah.
But then I think that still defeats the purpose of going with, well, yeah, I would say if you're going to go with Mist, you're going to want to have the distributed
Yeah. But
architecture.
I mean, I guess you get the flexibility then to, tunnel it back for all the, legacy installation. For the new installation, you could do it distributed. And then
Hmm.
I guess you can transition the legacy installation as you go, you know.
Hmm.
You can, I don't know, it gives you
Yeah,
flexibility, I guess.
I would say for anyone that's thinking about transitioning from a controller based architecture to this distributed and cloud based management, it's definitely going to have to be a phased approach, right? Rip
Yeah.
and replace is one costly and two a big project because you would have to design for this radio. It could be different, and then yeah, you got to do it per building or per floor, however that would be, and you'll have
Mm.
some parts of your campus that's tunneled and to the controller, and some that'll just be dropped right at the switch and out to the internet. Well, those were my thoughts on Mist. Uh, Mostly positive, and I think they have a great future with the product that they have. Any last words you want to add to that?
No, it's just I was also impressed with the progress they're making, the list of customers they're able to attract. I guess if you want to make your own opinion, if you want to have your own opinion, you can go on YouTube and watch the Mobility Field Day 3 videos on Mist. I think they broke it down on a couple of videos.
Yeah,
Um,
we'll include the video in the show notes just so you guys can see it. There's a couple of videos that they broke down the different topics, but yeah, it's worth watching and seeing everyone's reactions to what Mist was presenting on.
just for the experience of watching Sutir presenting, that's worth it.
Well, that's all we have for this episode. Let us know what your guys' thoughts are on Mist and where they're going, what you guys think. If you're using it or you plan to deploy, let us know in the comments of the show notes. And that's pretty much it. We'll have all the links and resources in the show notes as well. So if you have any questions, hit us up on Twitter or just on the comments. And we hope you enjoyed this episode, and we'll see you on the next one. Thanks, guys.
Thank you guys. Bye bye.